Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be exploring something really different. It's a system of observances and celebrations that revolve around the lunar calendar. So special dress codes, intriguing terms like Suneve and Satureve,
Mhm.
and even events called final farewell rites.
Ooh,
Sounds intriguing, right?
absolutely. What we're looking at here is more than just, marking moon phases. It appears to be an entire way of life structured around them, a Cosmeno-Realm, as our source calls it.
Okay.
Though what exactly that means is our first puzzle.
I love that we're starting with a mystery already. So how does this Cosmeno realm actually work? Where do we even begin unpacking it?
Well, a lot seems to hinge on the 11th lunar day, known as Ekadashi.
Right.
You might be familiar with it as a day of fasting in some traditions, but in the Cosmeno realm, it's like a central pivot point for all sorts of practices.
Okay, I'm getting some ancient wisdom meets modern life vibes already. But before we go too far, can we make sure everyone's on the same page? What exactly is Ekadashi for those of us who might not know?
Good point. In a nutshell, Ekadashi is observed in several cultures with roots in Hinduism. It's traditionally a day for focusing inward, be it through, fasting, meditation, or prayer, kind of like a spiritual reset button.
Okay.
What's fascinating is how the Cosmeno realm seems to build upon this concept, making it a cornerstone for their whole system.
So not just a random date, but a day already loaded with meaning. I can see why they'd pick it as a starting point.
Mm.
Now, there's this thing called the reverse phase. The name alone sounds pretty intense. What's that all about?
It's described as a period of turning oneself away.
Hmm.
And get this, it happens twice during each lunar cycle.
Wow.
Once from the first quarter moon to the Friday after Ekadashi, and then again from the last quarter moon to the Friday after Ekadashi.
Hold on. So it's not one continuous block of time. That's kind of unexpected.
Yeah,
What's the reasoning behind these two separate periods of turning away?
that's a great question. And honestly, the source material doesn't explicitly say. But if we consider the concept of Ekadashi as a reset, maybe these two reverse phases act like mini retreats within the lunar month.
Interesting. Like little pauses to reflect and recalibrate. So what are people actually doing during this turning away time?
Well, there's mention of more listing rights and a whole bunch of access classes, which admittedly are a bit cryptic.
Mortising rites. That sounds like some serious decluttering, both physically and mentally. And access classes, are we talking workshops, spiritual gatherings, online courses?
Could be any of those, right? The ambiguity definitely leaves room for interpretation. But there are some clues. Other activities listed for the reverse phase include things like minimizing possessions, limiting technology, and focusing on essential needs.
So definitely leaning into that less is more philosophy, almost like a deliberate step back from the noise and distractions of everyday life.
Exactly. It seems to be about creating space for introspection, simplification, and maybe even some deeper self-discovery.
Now, we can't forget those other terms that caught my eye. Satureve and Suneve. They sound almost otherworldly. Where do those fit into all of this?
These actually happen within the reverse phase, which is already interesting. Satureve is described as a time for preparing for the end time. And, well, that certainly grabs your attention.
In time. Ooh. Okay, now I'm officially intrigued and maybe a little bit spooked. What kind of end are we talking about here?
That's the big question. It could be the end of a cycle, a personal transformation, even a symbolic ending. The source material leaves it open to interpretation, which I think adds to the intrigue.
All right, so how does one prepare for this mysterious end time in the Cosmeno realm? What's on the agenda for Satureve?
Well, Satureve seems to involve a mix of looking back and looking forward. There's mention of back viewing, now viewing, and something called the seventh day sound access class.
Back viewing and now viewing
Yeah.
sound almost like mindfulness exercises, taking
Yeah.
stock of where you've been and where you are now. But what about that seventh day sound access class?
Mm.
I'm really curious about these access classes.
Mm.
Are they like guided meditations, sound baths?
It's definitely possible. The use of sound is interesting, especially within this context of preparing for an end time.
Hmm.
Sound can be very powerful in shifting our mental and emotional states.
Ooh, I like where you're going with that. It's like using sound to help prepare for a transition, a shift in consciousness.
And intriguingly, Satureve also emphasizes paying attention to what's happening in the world around us.
Uh-huh.
It mentions focusing on global issues and taking action. So maybe it's not just about personal reflection, but also about understanding our place in the bigger picture.
So it's not just turning inward, but also outward, connecting the personal with the collective.
Precisely. And then there's the dress code for Satureve.
Okay.
Darkery with a grave beanie. What kind of vibe does that give you?
Okay. Darkery and grave beanie definitely paint a picture in my mind. It sounds almost somber, maybe even a bit ceremonial.
Right. It's a stark contrast to the bright colors and festive attire we often associate with celebrations. It makes me wonder if Satureve is less about outward celebration and more about quiet contemplation and introspection.
Like a time for serious reflection. Maybe even a bit of mourning for what's ending.
That's an interesting thought. It seems like there's a certain weightiness to this phase.
Okay, so Saturday is all about preparing for the end time, with introspection, global awareness, and a somber dress code. What about Suneve? How does that differ?
Suneve is described as a time for finishing things, and it's a much shorter period, just from Saturday afternoon after Ekadashi to daybreak.
So shorter and more action-oriented. Is there a specific focus for this finishing things aspect?
The main event during Suneve is the final farewell rites, which are considered the most important occasion in the entire Cosmeno-Realm.
Wow, the most important. That's a pretty big deal. It sounds like this is where all that preparation during Satureve culminates. What exactly are these final farewell rites?
They're described as a serious ceremonial occasion involving a sequence of acts.
Okay.
Rex Chief's reception, greeting rites, outviewing, and trend viewing. There's also music and dancing centimeets and house beats live sets, along with house moves dancing.
Okay, we've got some more intriguing terms here. Rex Chief, outviewing, trend viewing. Any initial thoughts on what those might be about?
I'm picturing a blend of formal tradition and communal celebration. Maybe the Rex Chief is a leader or elder, and the reception is a way of honoring them.
So a figure of authority or respect within the Cosmeno-Realm. And outviewing and trend viewing. Could those be connected to the focus on global issues during Satureve?
That's a great connection. Perhaps they're reviewing global trends, analyzing events, and considering their implications, essentially putting that outward focus into practice.
It's like they're taking what they've observed and reflected on during Satureve and applying it to a wider context. And of course, there's dancing involved, so it's not all serious business.
Exactly. Celebration and reflection seem to go hand in hand in the Cosmeno-Realm. Speaking of celebration, we can't forget the dress code for the final farewell rites.
Right.
Darkery again, but this time with a blaze flow element for certain groups.
Blaze flow. What's that all about? Sounds like things are getting a bit more visually interesting.
The blaze flow attire is specifically for those called Moon Zodi-borns and people close to them. They also wear farewell badges and can add accessories like scarves or special sweaters.
Moon Zodi-borns, another intriguing term. They must be a significant group within the Cosmeno-Realm.
Definitely. And their specific attire and accessories suggest they play a special role in the final farewell rites. We're starting to see hints of social structure and hierarchy here.
It's like we're piecing together a puzzle, getting glimpses into how this Cosmeno-Realm functions. But I'm a bit hung up on this contrast. Darkery sounds somber, yet there's dancing and this vibrant blaze flow. It's a bit of a mixed message, isn't it?
That's a great observation. Maybe it's not about one emotion or atmosphere dominating. Remember those synonyms we saw for the final farewell rites?
Which ones?
To cut the drops or to close the back.
Oh, right. I'd almost forgotten about those. They do suggest a sense of finality, of leaving something behind.
Exactly. Perhaps the final farewell rites are acknowledging the weight of endings, but also the possibility of new beginnings. The darkery could represent that seriousness, while the blaze flow and dancing hint at a sense of hope and renewal.
It's like they're holding both grief and celebration at the same time. A bittersweet farewell, maybe?
That's beautifully put. And another detail that stood out to me is the link between the 11th lunar day, Ekadashi, and specific roles in the final farewell rites. It reinforces how deeply woven the lunar cycle is into their lives.
It's not just about timekeeping. It's embedded in their social structure, their rituals, their very identity. That's fascinating. So we've explored these elaborate final farewell rites. What other ceremonies and festivities take place in the Cosmeno-Realm?
Well, there's the swearing-in rite of a Rex Chief, which is also considered a serious ceremonial occasion. with a similar dress code to the final farewell rites. And then there's the rite of passage of certain Zodiacan.
Zodiacan. Okay, now I'm really curious. We've got Rex Chiefs and Zodiacan. It's like we're uncovering layers of leadership, or maybe even spiritual significance within this realm.
I agree. It definitely suggests a more complex social structure than we initially imagined. But who exactly are these Rex Chiefs and Zodiacan? And what are their roles? Those are questions we'll need to keep exploring.
Like a mystery novel. We keep getting these intriguing clues, but the full picture is still shrouded in a bit of mystery. So we've got these ceremonies. But what about festivities? Do they ever just let loose and have some fun in the Cosmeno-Realm?
They definitely seem to have a serious side. But I'm betting even the most devoted lunar calendar enthusiast needs a break from end time preparations now and then.
Right.
What do they do for fun?
Exactly. They've got to be letting loose somehow.
You're absolutely right. They have something called the Summer-Realm Festival, which is their version of a big cultural celebration. It's described as a mix between a neighborhood party and a citywide event.
Okay. That sounds more my speed. What kind of things happen at this Summer Realm Festival?
Think good food, music, dancing. They have these things called hospice spots, which offer Cosmeno-style catering along with house beats and what they call dance splash.
Hospice spots and dance splash. I'm getting the feeling the Cosmeno-Realm has a unique vocabulary. It sounds like a pretty lively party scene.
It does. And for those who prefer a more low-key experience, there are chop spots, which are just places offering Cosmeno cuisine during the festival.
Okay.
Plus, they have a variety of access classes focusing on things like film, video games, and even their own Cosmeno heritage.
Wait, video games? That's not what I expected. It seems like they're not completely cut off from the modern world.
It's interesting, isn't it? They seem to blend elements of contemporary culture with their lunar-based traditions, and they even have basketball and American football access classes, if you can believe it.
Wow. Talk about a culture clash. So it's not all somber rituals and darkery attire. They know how to have fun, too.
Absolutely. And the Summer Realm Festival is all about strengthening their community bonds and celebrating what makes them unique.
I like that. It's like a reminder that even in a system that emphasizes introspection and turning oneself away, there's still a place for connection and shared joy.
Exactly. And the Summer Realm Festival isn't the only celebration they have. There are also film access balls where they screen classic and contemporary films, perform scenes, and of course have more music and dancing.
They really do love to dance, don't they? It seems like a core part of their culture.
It does. And they also have inauguration and anniversary celebrations for their Rex Chiefs and social groups, as well as big birthday celebrations for residents and Rex Chiefs. Lots of opportunities to come together and celebrate.
It's amazing how much we've learned about the Cosmeno-Realm just from these few sources. We've gone from cryptic terms and mysterious rituals to a surprisingly complex and nuanced picture of their way of life.
It really is fascinating. They have this intricate system that weaves together lunar cycles, personal reflection, communal celebration, and even elements of the outside world. It makes you wonder, what can we learn from their approach to life?
Right, it's like a glimpse into an alternate reality, one that's both familiar and completely alien. And it really makes you think about how we structure our own lives and mark time. What if we paid more attention to the lunar cycles? How might that influence our routines, our relationships, our understanding of the world around us?
Those are great questions to ponder. We may not all adopt darkery attire or participate in final farewell rites, but perhaps exploring different ways of living, like those in the Cosmeno-Realm, can spark new ideas and inspire us to create our own meaningful practices.
I think that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. It opens our minds to different possibilities, challenges our assumptions, and leaves us with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
And sometimes those questions are the most valuable part of the journey.
I couldn't agree more. Curiosity and a willingness to explore the unknown. That's what fuels true discovery, both within ourselves and in the world around us. They definitely seem to have a serious side, but I'm betting even the most devoted lunar calendar enthusiast needs a break from end-time preparations now and then.
Right, yeah, exactly. They've got to be letting loose somehow. What do they do for fun?
You're absolutely right. They have something called the Summer-Realm Festival, which is their version of a big cultural celebration.
Great.
It's described as a mix between a neighborhood party and a citywide event.
Okay. That sounds more my speed. What kind of things happen at this Summer Realm Festival?
Think good food, music, dancing. They have these things called hospice spots, which offer Cosmeno-style catering along with house beats and what they call dance splash.
Hospice spots and dance splash. I'm getting the feeling the Cosmeno-Realm has a unique vocabulary. It sounds like a pretty lively party scene.
It does. And for those who prefer a more low-key experience, there are chop spots, which are just places offering Cosmeno cuisine during the festival.
Okay.
Plus, they have a variety of access classes focusing on things like film, video games, and even their own Cosmeno heritage.
Wait, video games. That's not what I expected. It seems like they're not completely cut off from the modern world.
It's interesting, isn't it? They seem to blend elements of contemporary culture with their lunar-based traditions. And they even have basketball and American football access classes, if you can believe it.
Wow. Talk about a culture clash. So it's not all somber rituals and darkery attire?
Yeah.
They know how to have fun, too.
Absolutely. And the Summer Realm Festival is all about strengthening their community bonds and celebrating what makes them unique.
I like that. It's like a reminder that even in a system that emphasizes introspection and turning oneself away, there's still a place for connection and shared joy.
Exactly. And the Summer Realm Festival isn't the only celebration they have. There are also film access balls where they screen classic and contemporary films, perform scenes, and of course have more music and dancing.
They really do love to dance, don't they? It seems like a core part of their culture.
It does. And they also have inauguration and anniversary celebrations for their Rex chiefs and social groups, as well as big birthday celebrations for residents and Rex chiefs. Lots of opportunities to come together and celebrate.
It's amazing how much we've learned about the Cosmeno-Realm just from these few sources. We've gone from cryptic terms and mysterious rituals to a surprisingly complex and nuanced picture of their way of life.
It really is fascinating. They have this intricate system that weaves together lunar cycles, personal reflection, communal celebration, and even elements of the outside world. It makes you wonder, what can we learn from their approach to life?
Right, it's like a glimpse into an alternate reality, one that's both familiar and completely alien. And it really makes you think about how we structure our own lives and mark time. What if we paid more attention to the lunar cycles? How might that influence our routines, our relationships, our understanding of the world around us?
Those are great questions to ponder. We may not all adopt darkery attire or participate in final farewell rites, but perhaps exploring different ways of living like those in the Cosmeno realm can spark new ideas and inspire us to create our own meaningful practices.
I think that's the beauty of a deep dive like this. It opens our minds to different possibilities, challenges our assumptions, and leaves us with more questions than answers. And sometimes those questions are the most valuable part of the journey.
I couldn't agree more. Curiosity and a willingness to explore the unknown, that's what fuels true discovery both within ourselves and in the world around us.